Total Creativity. Как вам такое? Мы сегодня много говорим вообще об изменениях, мы все становимся их свидетелями, все понимаем, что что-то происходит, но что со всем этим делать, понимает далеко не каждый. Итак, о трансформации креативности и о ее распространении на всех этапах и на всех процессах, о разработках нового продукта, создании user experience и бизнес-процессов расскажет нам Патрик Коллистер, основатель Ad-Lib Digital и экс-креативный директор Google Zoo. Давайте поприветствуем Патрика на нашей сцене погромче, бодро после обеда. Hello, Patrick.
Well, hey, hey.
Welcome.
I go, hello, Moscow. Thank you so much, you amazing ADWISE people, for inviting me to this amazing city, this amazing building, this amazing audience, and on this amazing day. Apparently it's very mild for this time of year. I came totally unprepared. Snow, wow! So I'm really looking forward to exploring traditional Moscow later. So, permission denied. We've been hearing earlier today about Gen Z, and Gen Z are these people born since the year 2000. Do you know what? They fucking hate us. All of you in the room, and especially people like me. So, in terms of advertising, they really don't want to engage at all. And they have all of these incredible tricks to be able to avoid us. So I promise you, I am going to talk about total creativity because that is the only solution, I think, in this potential era of brand meltdown. So, da-dang. Hey, I've got the wrong clicker. Click, click. I think my pacemaker is interfering with it. Da-dang, do-do-do-do. Let's see if this one works. Da-dang, whoa, woof. This slide is woof because they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but let me tell you, I'm proof you can. So I used to be the creative director of an ad agency, Ogilvy and Mather. Then I went into direct marketing. And then amazingly, Google gave me a job. I was the oldest guy in Google but in Northern Europe by some years. But then I joined a tech startup called Ad-Lib. The average age of this company is 28. It was 24 before I joined, but hey, it's a real honor to be part of them. And what we're doing is we're a tech startup, as I say, and what we're trying to do is to save advertising from itself. Because so much advertising out there is CAC. It is shit. And so through technology, one of the things I'm doing at the moment is I'm creating a robot of myself. It is hilarious. Collybot is a robotomized creative director. Because as a human being, if I was to say to the Nestle client we had this morning, Mr. Nestle, your advertising is shit, we have confrontation. But if a bot says your advertising only scores 1, then you're wasting your money, then you pay attention to it. So for me, we live in an era of incredible change. There is a Chinese proverb that says, when the winds of change blow, you can either seek shelter or build windmills. And today I want to talk about building windmills because this era of change is also an era of great opportunity. So 20 years ago, this guy, Seth Godin, wrote a book that transformed marketing. And it was called Permission Marketing because he said the digital revolution meant that people were going to be able to opt into advertising and that data would lead advertisers to know exactly who they were talking to. So the right message to the right person at the right time, and it would stop being advertising. It was messaging you wanted to engage with. But that didn't happen. He said it was going to be anticipated. You would be looking forward to your favorite brands talking to you. It would be personalized, and so the offers they made would be personal to you and your previous purchasing habits, and it would be relevant. Instead of which, what we have now is advertising that is annoying, really, really annoying. You get followed around the internet by remarketing. And actually, it is so annoying because I don't know about you guys. How many of you here have bought a product and then had 5, 10 ads trying to sell you the same product after you've just bought it. God, it really, really is annoying. And then how many of you seen that crass piece of branded content from Pepsi with Kendall Jenner? You know, what fucking bollocks is that? You know, and then lastly, we now have the whole manipulation of data scandal. You know, to what extent, you know, are governments, let alone brands, taking our data and doing things with it that are really unappealing? So the big problem for advertising, this, by the way, isn't this great? At the last year, it won the Emoji of the Year award. You know, I had no idea that there was an Emoji of the Year award at all. But anyway, it won it. So advertising's big problem is advertising itself. And so for me, the solution to permission denied is creativity. How many of you here have ad blockers, truthfully? Well, I don't believe you. So at the moment, it's about 10%. I reckon even in an audience of marketers and advertising people, at least 50% have ad blockers. Around the world, 800 million devices have ad blockers installed. It has been called the biggest single protest movement in history, you know, because it's bollocks. Now, this is a guy called Bill Hicks, and what he's saying here is, this is a stand-up act he did.
Just a little thought. I'm just trying to plant seeds. Maybe one day they'll take root. I don't know.
Oh, it doesn't matter. So what Bill Hicks is saying here, and this video was made in 1994, which is the year he died. So this guy died 25 years ago. And yet this video in total on YouTube has had around 20 million views.
Kill yourself. Seriously.
You can, oh, I'll pick it. Because what he's saying here is, if you work in advertising or marketing, kill yourself. And everyone laughs, and he goes, I'm just putting it out there. Seriously, kill yourselves. And he goes on to say how we are Satan's little spawn. You know, that's what we do. And so there are a whole load of people out there who believe this to be true, and it's getting worse. I mean, you know, I come from the UK, where our politicians lie to us. I mean, Bill Clinton was the first politician to lie. I did not have sex with that woman. I don't know what he had, but he had something very, very close to sex. Then our own prime minister lied about why we went to war with Iraq. And now we've got a guy called Boris Johnson. Nice name, Boris. Don't know about the Johnson bit. But again, he lied to us. And so we're getting used to people lying. And yet, even so, we rank advertising people below politicians as the scum of the earth. And maybe there's reason for this. You know, one of the case histories we saw this morning was about people who are HIV positive. And ad agencies are doing all of this really good work for good causes. You know, so I'll give you a little example. Last year at the Cannes International Advertising Festival, there were 34 campaigns about the refugee crisis. This year there was one. And it came from that country well known for its immigration problem, Japan. In other words, the advertising industry doesn't think the refugee crisis is a problem any longer. We've all moved on. How fucking shallow. You know, and people out there see how shallow we are, and they don't like it. Meanwhile, we have lawsuits happening in America and the UK where media agencies are being taken to court. Why? Because essentially they've been stealing from their clients. This whole thing called programmatic is so complicated that media agencies have been robbing their clients blind. And it's not only that, we hate ourselves. You know, so this is a guy called Bob Hoffman, and he wrote a book, you know, which is all about not ad men, but bad men, you know, and how we're subverting an entire generation. And here's a winner at this year's Cannes Festival.
The companies like Skittles.
So, I mean, the whole thing about that, advertising ruins everything. You know, if you're a creative team in DDB Chicago who wrote this, it's irony. You know, and Cannes Awards judges who come from London and Paris and Berlin and New York, they all get irony, but ordinary people don't. Ordinary people think you're absolutely right. Advertising ruins everything. They don't understand that this is clever. They think this is the truth. You know, and it's not just ad agencies, but brands. Volkswagen, lying, cheating, stealing, the diesel's emissions scandal. You know, if you look at that, points, air miles. I've been collecting Avios air miles and I've suddenly discovered I can't go anywhere. The last time I tried to book Avios, they could book me on an aeroplane to Sydney, Australia, but I wasn't going to be able to come back until 2020. So they're stealing from me. And then again, you know, my telephone provider, I've got an account with Vodafone. Vodafone took £1,500 out of my account without telling me, without notification or anything, because they said that I had been exceeding my roaming, my data consumption while I was abroad. They just took the money. And it took me 7 months to get it back. So brands are lying, cheating, stealing, and people out there know that, and it really, really worries them. Meanwhile, brands corrupt. This is a gambling company. They've hired Wayne Rooney to become the star of a football club playing number 32 for this, which is the name of this online gambling company. And 1 million people in the UK have already signed up to a website confessing that they're gambling addicts. You know, so here's the really interesting thing. Do people give a damn about brands any longer? Do people really care? Volkswagen, you know, if we believed in brands and branding, Volkswagen should be on its knees as a company, instead of which the last 2 quarters have been record profits. And that's really interesting to me because it says to me that Volkswagen make really good products. And no one out there really cares about brands. And half-assed research seems to support this, that if 77% of brands disappeared today, no one would notice. But I'm here today to say, marketers all, there is salvation. And it's called ROI. Not return on investment, which is just the most annoying concept on this planet. Return on investment, of course you want return on investment on every penny you spend. You know, if you take a girl out for dinner, you hope that you're going to get a return on investment. You know, if I put in a pitch to a client, it costs a lot of money, but I'm hoping for a return on investment. I'm talking here about return on idea. Idea. Creativity manifests itself through ideas, and that's what we need today. And we were looking at some of the amazing stuff that you can see on TikTok. People out there are having ideas that in many ways put us in agencies to shame. And the great news is, despite all of this, despite the fact that people use their remotes to zap TV commercials, despite the fact that people are buying their media now from streaming companies and paying not to have advertising, despite the fact that people have installed ad blockers, it still works. And real evidence of this is when Kraft and Heinz merged, what they did is they dropped their advertising spend by 35%. Sales plummeted by 2%, which is huge, and profitability dropped 30%. And so the moment they started advertising again, things began to pick up. So advertising works. And I think that you can make advertising work through applying what I call the 7 rules of communication. I don't know if any of you read this guy. He's called Mark Ritson. He's the professor of marketing at the University of Western Australia. He's a very, very funny guy. He uses the word fuck even more often than I do, which endears him to me. But he also wrote a blog post once about how anybody talking about new rules was a complete cretin. So I'm really, really sorry. I don't know how else to frame it, but it does seem to me that there are new behaviors of marketers that really, really can help you in this world of brandlessness actually connect with people and build your brand. And the first one of those is be purposeful. Now, this is Jim Stengel, and he was the inspirational marketing director of Procter & Gamble worldwide. And he wrote this book called Grow, and it's about how ideals power growth. So brands need to stand for something. You know, so Anita Roddick, when she started The Body Shop, this was all about the environment, long before the environment was popular and fashionable. She started spending money because she said that there were only 8 supermodels in the world, and yet all advertising was directed at those 8 people, which was crazy. So she came up with Fat Barbie and got sued by Mattel, by the way, for all of that. But there she was. She stood for something. She stood for ethics. A lot of people will know about Patagonia, saying, don't buy this jacket. Why not? Because if you've got a perfectly good jacket already, you don't need a new one. And they stand there for anti-consumerism, because consumerism is leading to so many of the problems of waste and with the environment we've got today. You know, I think one of my favorite brands for standing for something is Corona beer. Do you have Corona? It's a Mexican beer. Do you have it in Moscow? Yeah, do you like it? It's all right. Okay, it's all right. But Corona's brand positioning is all about a beer for the beaches. It's just the trouble is the beaches of Spain are just covered in crap. So what they did is they picked up all of the rubbish from the Costa Blanca beaches and they built two hotels, two small hotels, one in Barcelona, one in Madrid. They just had 2 rooms each. These were available to hire, to rent on Airbnb. And they called them the rubbish hotels. And the first person to check in was Helena Christensen, who's a Danish supermodel and now a photographer. And so she tweeted about the experience and used social media. And here's Corona standing for cleaner beaches and how together we can actually clean up the environment around us. You know, brand purpose is, Miracle Whip, which is like a mayonnaise, but it's made with oil rather than with egg. They found a town in Florida called Mayo, and they persuaded the town mayor of Mayo to change the name of the town to Miracle Whip. And of course, all the people in the town were appalled. No, we don't want to be called Miracle Whip, until this amazing thing happened. That they had a big sign up on the highway saying Miracle Whip, 3 kilometers. And all the traffic began to turn off the highway going down to Miami and go into this town. And so the little cafe, the burger joint there, the petrol station, their business began to increase. Suddenly there was energy and drive in this really sleepy, rundown community. There was a reason now for people to live there. So for me, Miracle Whip has discovered its purpose, which is about revitalizing communities. Here's Nike. This was the single most awarded piece of creative work in the world this year because it's anti-Trump. You know, and here he is, Colin Kaepernick, you know, and he refused to bow to the national anthem because he says that America is fundamentally still a racist country. You know, and what happened when this advertising ran is that, first of all, people started burning their shoes, Nike shoes. There was a huge outcry, and then what happened is that Nike's share price went up by a value of $6 billion. In other words, America was buying into the idea of Nike as this inclusive brand that stood for all people, you know, and it worked. It was fantastic, except for one thing, that it's probably complete bollocks. Now, this is a guy, he's the new CEO of Unilever, and his name is Alan Jope. And he says that every single Unilever brand will, under his watch, become a brand of purpose. In other words, a brand that fulfills a social need. You know, all of his brands are products that deliver to our everyday needs, but beyond that, brands need to fulfill a role inside society, you know, of one sort or another. And that is what he is dedicated to doing while he's the CEO. But what he did say when he was talking to us was beware of woke. Now, woke is a Gen Z word. I told you I can learn new tricks, woke. Woke means fake, spurious. Woke means bollocks. And he says there are a whole load of brands out there who are spouting bollocks to us. And actually, that turns out to be Nike as well. You know, because just 6 months after the big Colin Kaepernick thing, they launch a new shoe. Now, that flag on it is the Betsy Ross flag of America, and those are the 13 original states. Those 13 original states were the slavery states. They both imported and they put to work black people from America. And it's Colin Kaepernick himself who says to Nike, "What are you guys doing?" So here's a brand actually not really even believing in its own brand values. I mean, I don't know if any of you have seen this, you know, as if a bar of chocolate is going to solve the whole problem of racism across India. You know, you just begin to look ridiculous, you know, as a brand if you don't genuinely care about people. Meanwhile, in the UK, we've got this advertising campaign from the bank, and they're talking about, it's kind of referring to Brexit. But here's the really interesting thing, and I'm going to talk about this in the capacity that people answer back. Everybody out there knows when you're lying to them. So I found this online. Because that's the truth. You know, that's what the brand wants us to think about themselves, but this is what people really think. Now, the thing about having purpose is you don't have to be serious. It's not all about hugging trees and being good. I think a brand purpose, I'd love a brand out there just to cheer us up. You know, life is so bloody miserable at the moment. And here's the thing, I don't know about your own local award shows, but at Cannes this year, there were 932 award winners, and only one of them made me laugh. You know, the rest just want me to cry and to feel sorry, and I do. I'm really sorry. But you can stand for things. You can stand for just a point of view. I think the second behavior for marketers is data. You've got to learn to use data. Data provides insights. This is an amazing book. I don't know if it's been translated into Russian, but it's written by a guy who, at Google, while I was at Google, called Seth Stevens-Davidovitz. And basically what he does is he looks at search data, because people go online and they ask Google questions they would never dare ask their mother, their girlfriend, or their best friend. You know, so I mean, he calls it the digital truth serum. And one of the things, in order to be able to prove some of his theories, he got Pornhub, which is the biggest single porn website in the world, to give him all of their data, And here are some really, really interesting things. It turns out that more women say, my husband won't have sex with me, you know, than men say, my wife won't have sex with me, or my girl won't have sex with me. In other words, men across North America are more frigid than women. Now, I find that really, really interesting. There are also a whole load of statistics about condom use. So, for example, when people go online in America and they talk about condoms, it appears that they are buying more condoms every year than are actually sold in the entire Northern Hemisphere. So people lie. You know, people lie, and yet what happens is that digital media, digital platforms understand. So for me, is this interesting? Yeah, as a creative person, it really is. When I was at Google, the Reckitt Benckiser brand, Durex, asked us if we could help them sell more condoms in Italy. And so you don't have to go to a special data analyst. You just went to Google Analytics, and I typed in, do Italians search for sex? So I found the Italian word for sex, which is sesso, and I asked Google, do Italians search for sex? And it turns out they do, which is interesting. But in August. So what about the other 11 months of the year? You know, for 11 months of the year, they might as well be British. And so, as a creative guy, I'm saying, can you do stuff with this? I'm going, yes, you can. In Italy, how do I turn February into August for Italians? What do I do with this? So data provides these insights that then allow you to have ideas. And then if you can innovate off the back of that, you've got the paradigm of modern brand communication. And why do I say innovate? And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Because Gen Z expects it. You know, Gen Z expects you to be innovating. And in fact, you have to innovate in order to be relevant to them, to be doing new and interesting things. You know, my favorite breakfast cereal was called Weetabix. It came in a packet, you put 2 Weetabix in, it was made of wheat, and you poured milk on it. They serve it as a bloody drink now in a bottle. It's disgusting. And the only reason they do it is because it's creating news. So, what data throws up are revelations about people. So we were working with an agency called 72 and Sunny on a brand called Axe. You know, Axe is about spray, and for about 10 years it was spray and get laid. And when my son was a teenager, boy, did he do a lot of spraying. But unfortunately, I don't think he got a lot of laying. Never mind, he was trying. But they noticed that guys were going online and they were asking Google for definitions of modern masculinity. Is it okay for guys to wear pink? Is it okay for guys to eat yogurt? Guys, do you eat yogurt? Yeah, of course it is. Is it okay for guys to do yoga? And from this, we help them create a completely new campaign using digital and social media. Boxer Anthony Joshua, heavyweight boxing champion of the world, to say, of course it's okay to wear pink. Of course it's okay to eat yogurt. Hey, I eat yogurt. And so what was amazing is that the data gave us an insight that became a platform for an entire new campaign, and we were able to innovate in kind of the way we used YouTube. Here in Russia, using real-time data, The Village was able on March the 8th, International Women's Day, if you opened their app, it was like real-time stock market trading, but in roses. So you could see which of the rose sellers here in Moscow were really ripping you off because you had forgotten to buy your mum flowers, you shameful boy. And so going onto the app, you could find out which of the flower sellers were selling them at a reasonable price. Fantastic. And that, for me, is what today, as advertising people, we need to be doing, is we're giving people products and services that are useful, usable, and sometimes delightful. I don't know, I thought I'd just bung this one in because one of the data analysts in my team, we were working on a shampoo, and Jonathan went off and he researched shampoo, and he came back to me as the creative director of the zoo, and he said, Patrick, I have evidence to show that in the UK, on average, a woman's relationship with her hairdresser lasts longer than her marriage. Now, I'm a creative person, and I think this is really interesting. So here's an insight that will lead to an idea, and if I can innovate off the back of that, then I'm doing brilliant things for this shampoo. Thirdly, as a brand manager, learn to be social. This is about actually conversations. I was talking to a marketing director the other day of a whiskey brand, and he said that he liked to have a conversation with his customers, and he used direct mail. And I said, oh, that's interesting. How often do you mail them? He said, twice a year. That's not a fucking conversation. If I spoke to my wife twice a year, I've got to tell you, life would be a lot easier. But I don't think I could call it a relationship. So this is Honda in the USA, and this is their Facebook page. A guy called Dustin uploaded onto his Facebook page the fact that he'd had the Honda logo tattooed on his arm. So, I mean, he's obviously a sad fuck, but hey. You know, but the moment he posted that, that is the marketing director of Honda USA, and so he had Dustin tattooed onto his arm and posted up on the Honda Facebook page. Whoa! People got really interested in this, so Chris mowed the Honda logo on his lawn, so they mowed his name on their lawn. Then Christina uploaded a picture of the Honda logo on her nails, and so the digital marketing manager at Honda USA had Christina's name. That's how they got 1 million Facebook friends. You know, because suddenly here's a brand genuinely behaving with human values and being approachable and funny. You know, listen and respond. This was Burger King. You know, Donald Trump, when the White House was in lockdown because the Democrats had managed to prevent business from happening, he had the American football college champs to dinner at the White House. He paid for a whole load of fast food himself, and he tweeted about it. Unfortunately, he called them hamburgers. And so the next day, Burger King tweet, due to a large order placed yesterday, we're all out of hamburgers. However, we're serving hamburgers today. You know, and that got 500 million media impressions around the world because here's a brand taking part in life, in what's happening. So learning to listen and respond. Here's Balenciaga. They create a bag that costs over 2,000 euros. And it's modeled on an IKEA bag that you can buy for $1. And so suddenly IKEA are tweeting about this and sharing it on social media. And it's hilarious. It's brilliant. Meanwhile, the distributors of chicken in the UK, DHL, screwed up. And so a load of DHL restaurants were not getting chicken. And so KFC put out advertising there saying, we're sorry, but in a way that was relevant and charming. So as a brand manager, you need to learn to be responsive to people, to genuinely engage in conversations. And if you get it right, people will love you for it. You know, in other words, you'll become part of the 23% of brands that people do want to engage with because you're relevant to them. And then be agile. Agile is exactly what I was talking about, being aware of what's happening today, yesterday, you know, being aware of it and being out there. And of course, what that means as a brand manager, you need to have really, really close relationships with your legal teams because you need to be able to approve ideas instantly.
So in Fortnite announced a new event called Food Fight between Team Pizza and Team Burger. Wendy's saw an organic weigh-in.
You heard earlier about Fortnite, and I think half the room had heard about Fortnite. Fortnite is a game. And within the game, they have different games. And they launched a game of burgers versus pizzas. And within this, Wendy's, the burger chain, or their ad agency, saw a really great opportunity. And so they created a character, just like you would if you were playing Fortnite, and they dropped their character into the game, and she was called Wendy's. And she started attacking, not other players, but she started attacking fridges inside the game. And then when people saw this was happening, they all piled in. Gamers started destroying fridges in the pizzas versus burgers game, because in the game, all of the burgers were stored in fridges. You know, from the moment the creative people had the idea, all the way through to launching it in Fortnite was 36 hours. And so being agile means as a brand manager, you need to be able to be receptive to these, to know who you've got to get approval from and get it through your legal team fast. You know, but you can do it. You can respond in real time, and that is how people think that you are cool. You're like them. Lastly, fifth, be mobile. I know it sounds bloody obvious, but 46% of websites have still not been designed to be mobile friendly. You know, they're still designed, for a desktop, which is crazy. But, I talk to marketers about integrated communications. I say it's not integration of media channels, it's integrating people's lives. So, people spend a lot of time sitting on the bog. And the reason they do that is because their jobs are boring or they want to take time out. 28% of people in the UK have bought a product or engaged with a service while sitting on the loo. 15% of people will confess to having dropped their phone down the toilet. How many of you have dropped your phone down the toilet? Hey, brave, truthful people. I'm pretty sure it's more than 5 of you, but there we go. So being mobile is understanding where people are and what they're doing. And thanks to programmatic, I get so worried about programmatic, Programmatic is the future of advertising. It's the right message to the right person in the right place at the right time. And yet, creative agencies aren't engaged with it. Clients aren't getting their creative people to start coming up with ideas. But when you do, when you start looking at signals, you become a part of people's lives. Brilliant. So today, if this was Mark's discount store in Moscow, they would be running digital display advertising on the relevant websites and in digital outdoor, saying you can get a 3% discount on their outdoor clothing, because the temperature out there is -3. In Canada, where it gets to anything up to -30, depending on the day and the temperature, that's the discount you get, which is just charming. It's great. This is Carrefour. If you're a pregnant mother, you probably don't get much sleep. So between the hours of 2 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning, they serve advertising that takes you to the Carrefour website where you can buy baby products at massive discounts. Isn't that lovely? It's saying we know who you are and where you are and what's happening to you. And this is Ad-Lib. We've started monitoring the pollution levels inside London, which means that we can start serving messages from Clarins to people dependent on where they are in the city. We can let them know what the pollution levels are like, and we can let them know that there is a solution for this. Being usable, this is brilliant. This is using the data, GPS data on your mobile phone. Burger King in Mexico, I don't know what the traffic jams are like in Moscow, but in Mexico City, you can spend 5 hours in a traffic jam. But now, thanks to this particular app, Burger King can deliver a burger to you in your car. Isn't that great? So here are people really thinking. And here's the thing about all of this and why I'm talking about it, is brands communicate now more in what they do for you than in what they say. You know, the moment a brand delivers a Whopper to you in the middle of a traffic jam, you know, in the middle of Mexico City, you're on social media telling people about it. C2C communication is really what it's about. And when you're a creative person like me, we're in the business of creating ideas that people want to be part of, because when they're a part of it, they share them with other people. And that's how you become relevant. Oh, I love this. This is Gordon's Gin. Do you have Gordon's Gin here in Moscow? Is it all vodka? No, this is a gin brand. And so what they've got is an app just in one part of London. There's a big railway station called Waterloo. Lots of commuters use it. If you download this app, it just tells you if your trains are running on time or not. But if your train's running late, then what it does is it just delivers a coupon for a free gin and tonic at one of 3 bars. So there's a brand being nice and helpful. So 6, be collaborative. This is Oreos, which is a chocolate biscuit, making a commercial all about the Game of Thrones and partnering with the Game of Thrones and with the HBO so that the two of them are now growing audiences. Has the Game of Thrones happened in Russia? Winter is coming. Wasn't the last episode a letdown? God. Anyway,
The Second Chance
so
initiative is being
this,
launched in several cities in California. See what happens.
this is brilliant. The case history takes too long. But this is a collaboration between the organ donation service of California and the local police. In America, if you have on your driving license, if you are willing to have your organs donated, you have a little pink dot. And so the ad agency, McCann's, persuaded the California police that if they bring somebody over for a traffic violation, for speeding or whatever, if they've got a pink dot on their driving license, they get given a second chance because they're giving somebody a second chance of life through their organs. So, I mean, an amazingly new kind of collaboration and partnership. And this is amazing. This is from Peru, where 2 totally competing TV channels both had different soap operas. And so in that soap opera on the left, which for the sake of argument we will call EastEnders, one of the guys in it becomes very ill and he dies suddenly. But also in the storyline, he donates his organs, and that's the story. But then 2 weeks later, in Coronation Street on another channel, that guy gets ill and goes into hospital, and he receives the organs of this guy, which is just amazing. I mean, here's somebody thinking and competing TV stations, and just beautiful and marvelous. And by the way, I mean, how many of you have had to sit in the middle row, in the middle seat flying with 2 fat guys either side of you? Isn't that shit? Isn't it worse? Well, Delta Airlines have created a special lounge for people who sit in the middle seat with Coca-Cola. So before you suffer this pain, you can go and sit in a nice lounge and you get free drinks and free food. And again, that's just a brand saying, we know what life's like, and being nice. And actually, when brands are nice to you, you respond by thinking warmly of them. So, lastly, be innovative. This is a press ad. It is probably the most boring press ad you will see this year, but it's also probably the most important, because using your mobile phone, this is programmatic print advertising. So if you scan that ad will take you either to a special offer for breakfast at McDonald's, or it will take you to your nearest Subway with a special offer for lunch, or again, depending on the time of day and your location, it'll take you to a Burger King for an evening meal and a discount on that. Print advertising is now becoming interactive as well. For me, when we were working at the zoo, we created this with Malibu. It's just tap the bottle and it automatically opens up content on your Android phone, not Apple, I'm afraid, but only on Android. You know, so again, what you've got is this, if you like, instant contact where brands can communicate with people at once. For me, the really distressing thing about this is that the content was crap. But actually, the technology is out there for you as brands to do really innovative, exciting, interesting things. And so we've got all of these fantastic new tools, you know, augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, you know. It is so exciting. I mean, I could spend another hour talking about the things that you could do here. If there are any retail brands in the room, you know, in the UK, 85% of people have never experienced virtual reality yet. And they're saying that they expect the big retailers to give them their first VR experience. And what they want to experience is either sport or exotic foreign travel. So learning to innovate is what it's about. And so I was really happy to accept the invitation from ADWISE to come and talk to you today because they're an agency that understands change. You know, in the old days, advertising was about telling people. But if you look at this matrix, you know, we told people, then that moved into content, so that actually is drawing people in. People engage with your content because they want to, rather than having it shoved inside their faces. But then that's also moved across into tools. And so at the zoo, working with Google, I was creating tools, apps, devices, platforms for brands that, again, people would find useful or usable and wanted to engage with. And then lastly, how do we get people actively involved in all of this? And that is a fusion, if you like, of kind of big creative ideas, but with technology together. And that really is what the modern agency is all about. It's about brand communication through what brands say, what brands do, and how brands behave. So no one said this was easy because, you know, if I had longer, what I would have done at the beginning of this is I would have shown you how advertising worked 20 years ago. And it's not just that it's changed. In so many ways, it's been completely reversed. And yet, if you've got trusted partners, then as brand managers, you really, really can succeed. And if you follow any, let alone all 7 of my behaviors, then I think you may well find that people actually want to engage with you. And it becomes permission granted. And on that note, thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Thank you. We have one question for you. Yeah. Isn't brand activism too far from the product? Why do I want a shoe to be involved in politics?
What was that again?
Yeah.
Oh, it's in Russian.
No, it's on English. Why do I want a shoe to be involved in politics?
Yeah. One of the things that I often used to say to marketers, to CMOs and brand managers, is don't forget the bloody product. You know, there's so much branded content out there, which is all about, if you like, human emotions, and they forget the product. And so, again, at Google, my team created the Hero Hub Help construct, which some of you may or may not know about. But I couldn't agree more. You know, branded content, engaging with people, yes, but there's still a product message in there. So the Wendy's thing, which was a game in Fortnite, the proposition there was Wendy's doesn't do frozen. There's a good old-fashioned proposition there, which is that Wendy's meat in their burgers is always fresh, every day. They don't freeze it. You know, and so they've just found a really new way of getting over a good old-fashioned advertising story. But so engaging, so much fun.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Патрик Коллистер, спасибо большое.
Bye-bye.